Hi everybody!
If it weren't for Sega and for Sony, I would not be the gamer I am today. So I'm actually really excited for the PlayStation Showcase happening on May 24th. When this video goes up, that will be tomorrow. After the showcase, I will of course pop up a card to my reaction video. If any of my predictions in this video wind up being horrible, you can come back in the comments section and roast me. I know my editors will probably rib me good-naturedly on this.
Rib me good. Well, that's the first time hearing something like that. Sounds off. Anyways, you got some lame jokes, so yeah, I am gonna roast you.
With that out of the way, let's get into the predictions.
Number 1.
I imagine we're going to see a fair deal of gameplay for Spider-Man 2. While I don't imagine it's going to be all that different from the first Spider-Man game or from its short sequel, Spider-Man Miles Morales, I do think it's going to feature a few tweaks that will spice up the gameplay. This is one of my safer predictions because Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is going to be one of the big hitters on PlayStation this year, and it's expected to release for the holiday season. For a lot of people, it's going to be a massive system seller. I don't think this will be the first game preview during the showcase, but I imagine we'll get a new cinematic trailer, and I imagine we'll get some gameplay plus the announcement of a Spider-Man 2 specific showcase in late August to early September. We might even see a release date given for this title. If I were to hazard a guess, I'm betting the game launches in late September to early October, with an early November release date being the absolute latest.
Number 2.
Moving on to my second prediction, we're going to stick with both Insomniac Games and Marvel. I predict we're going to see, at minimum, yet another story trailer for Wolverine. I don't think we're going to get any gameplay unless the game's development is going super smoothly. The game was announced alongside Marvel's Spider-Man 2 on September 9th of 2021 during that PlayStation showcase. I also imagine it'll be announced the game will have a 2024 release date. If I were to hazard a guess, late next year. Anyways, for my third prediction, we'll have one last Insomniac-based one.
Man, talking about all these Insomniac games just reminds me of one thing. What could it be? Oh yeah, get some sleep, you Insomniac wacko.
Number 3.
We know Insomniac Games are fast and hard workers. If you watch some of the Golden Bolts documentaries on the making of the Ratchet and Clank series, you'll see that crunch culture was taken to the nth degree at Insomniac during the PlayStation 1 through 3 eras. Crunch culture is of course a bad thing. That needs to be stamped out in the industry. However, considering Insomniac comprises of 2 teams, one can always be working on early stages of a new project once a previous one is ramping down its development cycle. We know from interviews previously given that Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart was created to wrap up previously dangling plot threads from the future era of games and to establish a new direction for the series. As of right now, Rift Apart is the second best-selling title in the series after the 2016 movie tie-in game. As of July 18th of 2021, the game has sold 1.1 million copies worldwide. While development for Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart was handled by both teams, it's conceivable now that all the asset work for this era of the franchise has been completed that just one team has been working on the sequel for a while. If this game does get announced, I would imagine we'll see at minimum a story teaser and a 2025 release date. Plus, Sony need to start incorporating more kid-friendly titles into the PS5's lineup. At present, all they have released to date are Astrobot's Playroom, which is included with all consoles, Sackboy: A Big Adventure, and Rift Apart. I'm probably missing a game or two, but Sony does need to inject more young blood into its install base. Most of its fanbase are in their late 20s to early 50s.
Now I remember back in my day, we didn't have them video games. Come on, old fart, get a move on.
Number 4.
It has been almost 3 years since Naughty Dog released the very divisive The Last of Us Part 2. I wasn't a fan of it personally, but I'll admit I only found novelty in the first game for one playthrough, after which I just stopped liking it.
Well, I'll be honest, that's even better than me, because I played Last of Us 1 a little bit, and I hung it up and I went, nope, I'm done.
I just don't find the gameplay loop for The Last of Us series fun, and since the developer didn't give any non-lethal options for taking out the dogs in Part 2, I just had to nope out of it. Anyways, Factions was the multiplayer mode for the original Last of Us title. I will admit I had fun in that mode. However, since Factions didn't launch with The Last of Us Part 2 and the game had such a lukewarm reception, I don't imagine it'll do all that well even if it does get announced. Because people just won't give a shit anymore. Only absolute diehard fans of the series are going to care about it. Anyways, we're going to stick with Naughty Dog for my 5th prediction.
Number 5.
I imagine we're going to hear about some kind of new project from Naughty Dog. I imagine it could be anything from Uncharted, a new Last of Us game, a new IP, or even a return of the Jak franchise. If it's a new Uncharted game, I'll pass. If it's a new Last of Us project, I will also pass. If it's a new Jak game, that might entice me to give Naughty Dog a second chance. They were my favorite developer from the time I was 7 right up until the time I was 30. But I was disappointed with Uncharted 4, and The Last of Us Part 2 just wasn't for me. A new IP, if it has a more upbeat feeling akin to what Naughty Dog used to do, I might be convinced to give it a try. But for now, I'm just not that invested in the company. I also feel it's a safe bet they have some kind of new project to announce. I also imagine this showcase will feature a lot of new stuff from various Sony studios, so let's explore that next.
Number 6.
Sucker Punch Productions made one of my all-time favorite games with Ghost of Tsushima. It came at the exact right time for me, at the height of the pandemic and being stuck inside the house through a pretty big birthday for me. It has all been quiet on the Western Front since then.
Fuck, you're old.
Fake laugh, hiding real pain.
Poor history joke aside, I imagine we're going to see something new from Sucker Punch. Whilst they've said they have no intention of revisiting Sly Cooper, I don't believe them on this one. I think we might see a new Sly Cooper game. Why do I say that? Because the mischievous raccoon fills a niche Sony really aren't addressing with their current lineup. One I alluded to earlier. In September of last year, Sly Cooper turned 20 years old. In celebration, we got a really epic poster and a really nice plushie. This clearly indicates Sony at least acknowledges the IP in some manner. So it wouldn't surprise me if Sucker Punch did do something with Sly Cooper. They could also consider doing something with the Infamous franchise, which is something I'd be all for. However, since Sony now have exclusive Marvel games and the superhero genre as a whole has reached saturation point in terms of cultural zeitgeist, I don't think we'll be seeing any Infamous title anytime soon. However, I do think Sucker Punch will have something in the works, though I don't imagine how they can really follow up Ghost of Tsushima if they want to continue using Jin Sakai as the main character. But if you can think of a way they could do it, let me know in the comments.
Number 7.
For my 7th prediction, I imagine we'll see some more Final Fantasy XVI gameplay. Given this title will be the PS5's big summer title and its release is just around the corner with a June 22nd launch, Sony and Square Enix are going to want to bring the hype. But what do you think? Will we see yet more Final Fantasy gameplay? Anyways, moving on.
Number 8.
I imagine a lot of people are expecting Sony will announce a PlayStation 5 Slim or a PlayStation 5 Pro. I'm here to tell you that won't happen. At this point in time, the fat PS5s are just starting to become readily available to the general public. While Sony do typically release a slim model of their current generation hardware a few years into its life cycle, I don't imagine we'll see a PS5 Slim until 2024 or 2025. Mainly because the PS5 won't have quite reached a profitable enough stage at this point in time because of supply chain issues. I also don't imagine we'll see a PS5 Pro this generation, as there just hasn't been any games taxing enough on the hardware to warrant any upgrades. It's not like 2016 where the PS4 was clearly showing how woefully underpowered it was for the gaming landscape of the time.
Number 9.
My 9th prediction is we'll see the return of a PlayStation first-person shooter title. It has been a long time since either Killzone or the Resistance franchise saw some love, and clearly they both fit a niche Sony will want to fill. Also, since cinematic first-person shooters aren't really a thing right now, that could be a standout hook right there. If I was to hazard a guess, I'd say a Resistance game would be the more likely of the two. However, I don't imagine it'll be Insomniac working on it. Maybe Bungie will take a stab at it.
Actually, you know what I'd love to see? Bungie releasing an exclusive Halo on PlayStation. Just to rub it. I know it's 343, but Bungie did have a little bit into it. But hey, it would be hilarious.
Let's stick with Bungie for the 10th prediction.
Number 10.
Sony spent a ton of money to acquire Bungie. For those that don't know, Bungie was once the crown jewel of Microsoft. The computer giant initially acquired Bungie in 2000 for a sum ranging between 20 to 40 million. Chump change compared to the $3.7 billion Sony used to acquire them. Basically, Sony is going to want to see some return on investment, and a brand new PlayStation exclusive IP from one of the most legendary developers in the industry is going to be a nice feather in their cap. I actually imagine Bungie have been working on something substantial since they were acquired in July of 2022. It wouldn't surprise me if they'd been working on something beforehand. If Bungie do announce something, what do you think it'll be? Let me know in the comments.
Number 11.
I'm going out on a limb with this one. I think we might see Atlas reveal something at this showcase. The most likely game to garner excitement, Persona 6. Now, I know rumors have been flying around that there will be a Persona 3 remake announced soon. I could also see that happening, but if Atlas was to announce a follow-up to the beloved Persona 5, I feel like Persona 6 is the way to go, as they could really go all out with a reveal trailer. But yeah, I think we'll get something Persona related. I just don't know what.
Number 12.
If you look back at the Nvidia GeForce Now leak from 2021, a lot of those leaks have come true. Notable games revealed in said leak include Kingdom Hearts 4, Crisis 4, Street Fighter 6, Final Fantasy 16, and Tactics Ogre Reborn. If you look at the list that were games we still haven't seen yet, this includes Final Fantasy IX Remake and Final Fantasy Tactics Remastered. I imagine we'll see both of those at some point this year, and if the rumors of Sony acquiring Square Enix are to be believed, a PlayStation showcase would be the perfect time to announce these, and them being acquired. I imagine the Tactics Remaster will be, in fact, a ground-up remake, and so will Final Fantasy IX. Either would be cool, though.
Number 13.
I imagine Sony will be acquiring some more studios in the very near future. If I were a Sony executive, I'd actually use one of my showcases as an excuse to announce said acquisitions, because that'd be a great PR move. Plus, you could then show off some new projects these developers are working on with the acquisition announcement. All around, it'd be a nice flex. I've previously covered some studios I feel Sony might acquire. That video, along with one of my other Sony-related videos, will be appearing in the end screen.
Number 14.
We all know the Twisted Metal TV series is debuting on July 27th of this year. What better way to capitalize on the series than to double down on it? Make a new Twisted Metal title. The last time we had a game was for the PS3 in 2012. I don't know about you, but I miss chaotic car combat games. Destruction All-Stars was able to whet the appetite a little, but that game had a super short shelf life because of how shallow it was. However, its developers, Lucid Games, are noted Twisted Metal fans, and Destruction All-Stars, despite being a shallow game, feels more like a potential Twisted Metal tech demo than anything else. Sony, give these guys free rein to make a Twisted Metal game, and it'll go far. So those were my 14 predictions for the May 2023 PlayStation Showcase. Are you excited for tomorrow? Let me know in the comments section, and don't forget to like and subscribe. 2 of my previous videos will be popping up now. One is on the top 10 studios Sony should acquire. The other is why PlayStation needs to diversify its game catalog. Why not check them out? Until next time, keep blazing that trail.